I am your host, Paul Story. I also write some stuff, but not as much stuff as Brian. You want to start right away? We want to wait for the on the dot?
No, go ahead. We're here.
Okay.
What do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, really. I want to ask, right off the bat, I want to ask, you're originally from Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
You, Bendis, Siegel and Schuster, Andreyko, Zoller. What is with Cleveland?
Bond too.
Oh yeah. Is it the water? Is it the Lake Erie water?
Must be. I don't know. It's you could say that. All right, that's Cleveland, but let's talk New York. You can go even bigger.
Well, that's true. That's true. But nobody, like everybody, thinks of New York as a comic book town. But I just was refreshing myself with your Wikipedia.
Oh, that's very accurate.
Yeah, yeah. I hosted a panel a couple of years ago, and I asked the guy, "Oh, I noticed this. I saw on the internet you did this." He's like, "No." "How about this thing?" "No." But now, were you writing at all before you moved from Cleveland to Chicago?
Not. You mean comics? No.
No,
not
were
at
you
all.
doing prose mostly?
Yeah, I was actually writing when I was in Cleveland after I got out of school. I wrote industrial videos.
Really?
Yeah.
I have some friends who did voiceover for industrial
Well,
videos.
maybe they used my words.
Yeah. And I'm sure that now hard-boiled industrial videos, what are those like? Film noir industrial videos?
Yeah. I mean, it was a silly job. Most jobs are.
So, and then now
This one's silliest.
you started off with prose, then you were a line editor at the revived Kamiko?
That's inaccurate.
Okay,
That's what it says,
okay.
but I was not doing anything editorially there. It just, that was a zoo, man, that place. Well, it wasn't a zoo. I was working for a bunkie.
It's a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon panel. You hear all the good stuff on the Sunday
Yeah.
panel.
Oh my God, that was just like, that guy was something else.
Yeah. So, and then there was, I believe the name was Jill Thompson introduced you to somebody at DC, Lou Staffis?
I knew Lou before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I got my bad information again.
Yeah, but I knew Lou from, he was an editor at Trouser Press and this magazine called Reflex, which was like a skater, music kind of lifestyle magazine. So that's how I was familiar with him.
Yeah.
Through that.
And I mean, I've heard he's pretty legendary.
Lou?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lou was legendary.
Yeah. So that's a hell of a way to start out in comics, working with top editorial kind of people. And
Yeah, we got the first thing that I pitched to him. He'd come to Vertigo from, like I said, I think it was right after Reflex that they hired him, and at the time, as he put it, Vertigo was all fairies and elves and shit, and he was not a fan of it, and he didn't like all this interconnected stuff, and he said he offered me Phantom Stranger, and it's like, oh, I don't know what I'd do with that guy. What's that guy do? That guy really...
he pretty much goes around being in a cloak and a fedora. Yeah.
And he said, just give me your take on it. Don't put anybody else in it. I don't want any of this interconnected stuff.
Yeah.
So I came back with him with the story. It was about it was a year-long story, and everybody else was in it.
Yeah.
And he was just like, this is exactly what I told you not to do, and I love it.
That is great to hear.
But Karen didn't love it.
Oh, not so very good. I was going to say, I don't remember your Stranger series.
But that was, okay, when that we got it to the 11th hour, and then she killed it right at the end, right?
Mhm.
She wouldn't let it just get over the finish line. And it was because I was new, and because I was, without saying it, it was because I was American. Because at the time, everybody was, that was when Vertigo was, just like everybody was doing it was from Great Britain.
So I was going to say, so you can blame Neil, Jenkins, Jamie Delano,
Jamie,
Grant,
Garth. Let's
right.
not forget about Garth.
Now, what did he do?
Garth, he's got a TV show, 2 of them.
Yeah.
So when that happened, Axel Alonso was Lou's assistant at the time, and he was just like, he was really disappointed that it didn't happen, and he was like, I don't know how we can break in new talent if, she says, we want new talent, but then when we bring your new talent, it's no.
Yep.
So we need to do something. And so that's when Axel's idea and Lou's was to create the anthologies, where he's like, I can break in new talent that way.
Yeah.
So like my first job at Vertigo was Weird War Tales. And then
Gangland?
I don't know if it was Gangland or Heartthrob that was next. I don't know, but it was like they did all these anthology titles, and he was putting me in all of them. And then he got promoted. Lou got sick and passed away. He actually got promoted, and he sent me Human Target as a character and Johnny Double. Human Target was something he was real hot on, and it was a much more recognizable character.
Right. Right.
He sent it to me and said, "Send me those 2." He goes like, "I want you to pitch me these." Okay. Because you're probably not going to get Human Target, but do it anyway. Just write me a pitch.
Yeah.
It'll help. It'll help you in the long run. And then I'm throwing in this other character who was like, he appeared in one issue of Showcase in like 1968 or something. And I like that character better than Human Target anyway, so. Human Target I didn't get, but I did get Johnny Double.
Yeah, that was a good series.
Thanks.
Not that looking back over the stuff I've read, I don't think you've had really a bad series.
Thank you.
Yeah. By the way, I'm curious, how many know Brian from his Vertigo work? Okay, and how many from his superhero stuff? So about half and half. I was just curious because, like, I always think of you as the 100 Bullets guy. I mean, that's where you sort of
I think that's
blew my doors out.
Most people will.
Yeah. But then you switched over. I remember us talking at Chicago about when you got the Superman gig with Jim Lee, and then it was sort of like, yeah, like that. I remember you feeling kind of like, this is not my usual cup of tea,
right?
But
that was, I got that when Jim was finishing Hush.
Yeah.
And he called me and he said, like, I want to do Superman. Have a good time. And he's like, oh no, you're going to write it. And I'm like, what?
Are you sure?
Yeah. He's like, I really want to work with you, and you're going to write Superman. I'm like, but I don't have a Superman story. He said, you'll think of one.
And you did.
And I did.
Yeah. So, has anybody got, okay, I got a question right
Is
there.
100 Bullets going to be made into a movie or
Who
something?
knows?
I mean,
Netflix hasn't approached you about the 100 Bullets streaming?
No. Right now, it's in its 6th option. It's not option 6 times. Right now, New Line has it, and they want to make a film. We'll see.
yeah.
I think it should be on TV, but whatever. What? Nobody cares what I think.
But
Will you be writing the script though?
No. I don't even really know if I want to. I'd want to have some sort of involvement, just like.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to write a script for that. I already wrote it,
it kind of like first come to be the big figure? Because out of all the comics, that was definitely very interesting, like with respect to Luthor, how he sees Superman and all that stuff, especially combined with the artists you work with. It's definitely really interesting, so just kind of curious like where that comic came about.
Where the idea came from? Boy, that was a while ago. I know where it came from. All right, it was in Chicago at a Wizard World show. Dan DiDio had just, this was a long time ago, he had just come to DC. And at the time, Lee and I were, we'd finished Batman Deathblow, which was the first thing we worked on together. And DC was going to give Wildstorm some DC characters to use in their universe. And they'd asked us what we wanted. Or, yeah, Jim's like, well, do you want to do one? Sure. What do you want to do? And we talked about it, and then we wanted OMAC.
Oh, yeah.
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 And then at Chicago, I had a meeting with Dan. Dan was like, you know, he wanted us on something big. He's like, what do you want to do OMAC for? I said, oh, OMAC's kind of, he's got a mohawk, he's cool. And he kicks ass.
Yeah.
And plus we both were like, let's, you know, we wanted to do like one of those stories set in the future, that kind of thing, like create something. I think Lee eventually did create the future that we were going to use in OMAC in Suiciders that he did for Vertigo. I think it was similar to what we were doing. Not exactly the same. Anyway, so Dan's like, you know, I want you to do something big. You know, big. Take somebody big. And I'm like, like who? He goes, well, why don't you guys do Superman? I'm like, I don't want to do Superman.
They keep coming back.
Yeah. It's like, up to, what about Lex Luthor? And he's like, yes, you can do Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
That's all that. Yeah. And then it was like, what am I going to do with Lex Luthor? It's like, you know what? I'm going to make him a good guy. Actually, I'm going to make him somebody whose motivations you understand. You know? I mean, yes, by the end of that series, you see that he's despicable, but along the way, he's like, he's kind of right.
Any more, or shall I start peppering Brian with my own questions? Okay.
So, a lot of different writers have interpreted Batman. What is your Batman? What drives him, you know, apart from just the standard stuff, if anything?
My Batman? He's a tragic figure, I think. I don't think that necessarily that's mine alone. I think every time that I've done a Batman story, I've sort of approached him from a different angle. Like, I think like Batman Deathblow, he was sort of like James Bond in Gotham City, you know. In the Broken City I did with Eduardo, that was like the cape was just a trench coat. I mean, he was a private detective pretty much, you know. It's just, I look for different things to say about him. I don't have it in me to write him on like for a long time, a monthly basis. For me, he works real well, just like go in, tell the story, and get out. You know, the whole Batman family soap opera element of it is lost on me. You know, I think he worked like Robin doesn't work for me. You know, I think he just works better when he's like torturing himself.
What about the Thomas Wayne Batman? Any plans to explore that?
No, I did that one already.
Yeah, no.
That was, why didn't anybody think of that before? You know,
That was a no shit moment when you...
Dan wanted us to keep doing it. It's like,
Yeah.
we want you to continue the series.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, it's done. I mean, there's nothing to say anymore.
Red shirt and then we'll move over.
Yeah, I read some of your Western stuff, the love list I liked a lot.
Thanks.
I really got into your take with Chang on Wonder Woman, the myths and God in London. I guess that was a really lengthy run.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have really lengthy runs on Wonder Woman and mainstream DC stuff. Was the plan for that run to be that long? Did you expect it? And how did you take Wonder Woman into that realm that you took her in?
Yes, I planned to have it that long. When I gave him the outline, it's like, here, it's going to take probably 3 years. Sign off on it, and I'll do it. Which was great, because since, you know, a lot of those books crossed over and all that stuff, and it didn't cross over at all, because I had it all mapped out for me. You know, so like, she's going to be here at the end of the first year, here at the end of the second year, here at the end of the third year, and then you can give it to somebody else.
You need some water.
Yeah.
And, right.
One that I'm kind of curious about is when I think of your work, particularly like 100 Bullets, there's like really striking panels that have always stuck with me, kind of visual reveals. I think one was like in the Hard Eight, like when Dizzy was like under the table. Like I just remember how that was. When you're working with an artist, is that something you really script? Do you use a really full script, or like in a collaboration like that, or are you just saying this is what happens and allow them to kind of take the reins?
With Eduardo, well, we've been working together forever, you know. I hate writing art direction. Just hate it. So my art direction is very sparse. But I do break it down panel to panel. So it's in there. He has a lot of, Eduardo brings a lot of his own ideas to the script, which I am like totally fine with. You know, a lot of the stuff that happens in the background, he just throws that in himself. You know. In the Hard Eight in particular, I didn't call for a parade going through the streets in New Orleans, but he put it in there. And he kept like going back and forth from where they're just talking heads to what's going on in the back.
It's always great when the artist puts in the stuff that you would kind of be uncomfortable asking for. Do this huge crowd scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, that I'll say, yeah,
Yeah.
do it, but, you know, this is a collaborative medium, which is great, that's what's great about it, and, you know, I trust my artists, you know, I don't, but I think that's why I'm able to work with really good guys over and over again, because they like working on my script. Because I give them so much freedom, you know? They're not my hands.
I was, you mentioned Loveless, and one of the things that strikes me is you're very kind of steeped in hard-boiled noir sort of stuff. That's always been my impression. Like fiction that you read. And there's this sort of a strong connection between at least like some styles of Western and the whole like Private Eye, hard-boiled, you know, it's almost a modern cowboy, you know, the American mythological cowboy, gunslinger. And like, do you think of that when you're going back and doing Western? Do you think, you know, are you conscious of that, or is that just a natural aspect of the kind of the American lone hero tradition?
I think, let's see, Loveless. I did El Diablo, which was a miniseries, and that was what I've been doing. Is like, wow, this is a noir story. This is and it's a Western. It's like I want to do more of this. It's like I want to take those two genres, put them together, see what happens. So that's what Loveless came out of that. It's like, can I tell a noirish story, but it's, you know, in the West. And you might be seeing more of that too.
Oh, you heard it here first.
You heard it here. It's been optioned by Warner for TV. Again,
Part of the arrow.
don't hold your breath. If you see it advertised, that's why I always say, when you see it advertised on the side of a bus, then you're gonna, there you go. So, yeah.
Are there any characters or players in like DC, for example, that you haven't written yet that you'd like to get around to someday?
No. Because I don't approach it that way. It's more, it's who I'm working with rather than what I'm working on. You know, if somebody says, I want to work, I meet somebody and we want to work together, it's more like, okay, let's, what are you thinking about?
So we're not seeing the Robin Tough Egg to Crack
No.
miniseries coming up.
How'd you meet Miller?
Frank, he wanted to meet me, which is, it was when maybe 100 Bullets had been out for a year, and he was familiar with it. And Bob Schreck, who was his friend and editor for a lot of the things that he did, I knew Bob, and Bob said, Frank wants to meet you. It was in San Diego. It was the, maybe it was like 2 years it was out, because it was the same San Diego that I met Eduardo for the first time. And Eduardo and I had been working together 3 years before we met each other.
Comics is a weird bit sometimes.
It's
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I should throw this in. Isn't Trish Mulvihill the best?
She's the best.
Because Trish would probably, if I failed to bring up the stellar work she did, she's probably going to give me a hard time.
Yeah, she's the best.
She's
done,
you had
she did 100 Bullets.
such a stellar team on that book.
100 Bullets?
Yeah.
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 And she was, Grant Golish colored the first few, and then Trish got the job because Grant was he was too slow. There were video games that he had to play. So he had to get, it's like we can't wait around on this thing. And so, and I don't think Eduardo really liked his coloring. So Trish had she colored Marcello Fruzi in one of the anthology stories. And Marcello was Eduardo's assistant. And so Eduardo saw it and was, I want that color.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I was lucky enough to give Trish a sorbet in the midst of 100 Bullets. She colored Gotham Girls for it.
Oh.
Very, very different kind of flavor to it. So, because otherwise I'm just going to start, okay.
So at your noir panel, yesterday you mentioned you always think of the end before you start going. So that shows, you have a lot of detail in mind when you're writing your stories. On stuff that you do on your own or wherever the big two companies have given you the opportunity, do you have an artist in mind already as you're writing your story?
I don't start anything without having an artist already anymore.
That's the best way.
That's the best thing.
On your Hellblazer run, the issues that you did with Richard Corbin,
Mhm.
is that something that you sought out, or is that something that was arranged for you, or how did that come to
That
pass?
was Axel and I think Axel was well, I got Hellblazer because Warren quit. Warren Ellis. They told that story that he did that was
Was it gun violence?
Yeah. It's like, well, because it was, I think it was it Columbine? They all sort of blend together now, don't they? I forget what happened. It was some school shooting, and Warren had done a story, a Hellblazer story, that eventually did get published.
Yeah. Annual or anthology or something.
Yeah. And DC said, no, you know what, this is too close right now. So they weren't going to publish. They said, we're not going to publish it. And he's like, well, I quit. And Axel called me, and we'd been talking about Hellblazer, John, for a while, and Axel was of the mind that he should be written by somebody British because he's so quintessentially British.
Yeah.
And then he called me and says like, I need somebody to write Hellblazer. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not British. He goes, yeah, I know. I changed my mind. And
Cleveland is like Britain.
yes, it is. It's dreary.
Yeah.
And I said like, well, I don't know anything about London either. And he's like, so don't put him in London. It's like, Axel's like, I think you should, let's go globe hopping. Let's go all over the world with all these supernatural things. I'm like, oh, all right. He goes, but I need to know by tomorrow if you're going to do it because I need to get somebody to write this book because he quit. So I thought about it. It's like globe hopping. Like, oh man, that's a lot of research. It'd be better just to keep him in one place. A place he can't get out of. Prison. And so I called Axel and it's like, yeah, I want to put him in prison. And he's like, okay, that's great. Let's do it. And then Axel said, I've been talking with Richard Corbin. And I said, Richard Corbin doing something in prison would be pretty rad. So he said yes. We ended up working 3 times together, I think. Yes, 3 times. Did Hellblazer, then we did a book called 2 Things for Marvel, Banner and Luke Cage, or just Cage.
Was there ever a story that you wrote that they, like, any major publisher just refused to put out?
What's that?
Was there any story that you were, or any book that you ever worked on that one of the publishers like ever refused to put out? Or?
No. We put out pretty much anything I give them.
What's that like?
It's been interesting.
I was going to ask about how you felt as an American writing a British character. 'Cause for a long time, I thought you were British too, with your run on Hellblazer.
I wrote Wonder Woman. You know?
You're not a Greek artist.
Yeah, it's like you just come up with a voice and so I felt fine. I felt it, at the time, and there was a lot of blowback because I was the first American writer. Some people were angry about that, and that just made me, like,
I was going to say, you haven't ever run into any kind of controversy with any of your books, right?
No, none. It's just like, it's right down the middle, Main Street.
Now, not to take attention off you, but I've known you for 15 years or so now.
Yeah, probably.
Used to catch up with Brian at cons, and you have never struck me. Every time I see something in the comics press, oh no, this is going on. I'm like, yeah, Brian doesn't care. You know, he's doing his story. And I mean, there are people who get very worked up if there's any kind of blowback. And you always struck me as somebody who's like got a solid enough vision that you're like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like you say, if they don't like it,
Yeah, I hope people, I hope everybody doesn't like what I do. You know?
I do an anthology called Pablum.
Yeah, well, it's like, all right, I think I said this the other day. The sweet spot for me is 50% people loving it and 50% hating it. That's like perfect, if I can get that. Because I'm getting conversation about what I'm doing. And that's what's really good,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, it's
Like yeah,
you want emotion.
I do.
Yeah.
You know,
Nothing worse.
crickets is the worst.
Yeah. Anybody?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do you have any suggestions for people looking into starting to write comic books?
Write anyway. You know, I think if you only want to write comics, you're never going to write comics.
I'm just thinking about like ways to think about it as opposed to like writing, you know, a novel or a movie or something like that?
Oh, well, you gotta think sequentially, you know? Which is, I mean, I've read some scripts from screenwriters that are come to comics, and they have no